Hello, this is Old Crow Balthazar, and welcome to Balthazar Strategic Arcana. So this is my episode 2 of this Icarus mod overview. With this episode, we're gonna deal with changes to artillery 2.1. It's under the heading Unit Capabilities and Upgrades. Episode 3 will deal with the other unit capabilities, but artillery, it's pretty extensive, so here we go. Artillery forces have now been divided into artillery and heavy artillery. Artillery units now have a range of 2 hexes, 3 action points, and a maximum of 6 shells after upgrades. They cost 250 MPPs and take 3 turns to build. They can only be upgraded to artillery weapons 1. They have a base demoralization rate of 5% and a maximum of 10% per shell after upgrades. Heavy artillery units have a range of 3 hexes, 2 action points, and a maximum of 8 shells after upgrades. They cost 300 MPPs and take 4 turns to build. They can be upgraded to artillery weapons 2. They have a base demoralization rate of 10% and a maximum of 20% per shell. Gas shell production costs 200 MPPs and only 1 chit can be invested at a time, as opposed to the current limit of 3 chits at 100 MPPs each. Each increment of artillery weapons tech adds 2 shells to the maximum for artillery and heavy artillery. Logistics tech has no effect on the number of shells per artillery unit. Neither artillery nor heavy artillery can be motorized. That's pretty good. I think I motorized some of my artillery in my match against Tanaka. I never really thought about it, but yeah, they did. It was all towed by trucks or horses. It wasn't on track vehicles, except for the so-called tanks. Major build levels for artillery have been changed as follows. So we'll go down to this chart here, compared with existing levels. Yep. Okay, let's go back up here. Okay, so we show here's the totals here, and I'll let you guys look at it. Yeah, so you can see here, this is the net from vanilla. So there's going to be 3 less artillery pieces for the Entente, 2 more for the Centrepars. One feature for sure, and it works good. There's a net for Germany. This isn't going to balance things. It actually was way overbalanced for the Entente. And I played matches where people peeled off artillery units from Mesopotamia, Greece, Serbia, and they all ended up on the Western Front against the poor Germans. Here, I already can tell through the meta that Germany can mass artillery on one front or the other, but still have artillery to handle a secondary front, which is what they did. You can see some of these changes here. So here's the new total for the UK's 5. Shows artillery here, heavy, and the field artillery. France total 3. Well, this is the old totals, right? Yeah, here's the new totals here. So no heavy artillery for Serbia, and that's a good thing. United States artillery, yeah, they were historically, they didn't have as much artillery as they have in the vanilla game. It's just regular field artillery, not heavy artillery. Well, mind you, the field artillery still has the trenches and everything like that. So. And then you can pause the screenshot this. Okay, I'm going to move on here. Note that the UK receives 2 artillery through decisions in Egypt and Mesopotamia, and Russia receives 1 artillery through a decision in the Caucasus, thus these indicated by a plus above. I'll go back up there. So this is what you're seeing right here, the plus above. That's what you'll get if you agree to pay for them and through a decision. Okay, miners can only build, let's get down here. Miners can only build artillery, not heavy artillery. The artillery units that can be built, the UK and Russia through decision events will be artillery, and the cost of these decisions have been reduced to reflect that. Okay. Heavy artillery can only start to be produced in January or February 1915 for the UK, France, Germany, and Austria-Hungary, and January 1916 for Italy and the Ottoman Empire. Yeah, and that makes sense too. Note that because heavy artillery have a range of 3, if set on auto, they can trigger defensive counter battery fire against other artillery behind the enemy line. Artillery weapons tech increments do not increase artillery attack strength against other artillery. That's brilliant. When railguns are upgraded to artillery weapons 1, they can fire 2 shells per turn. I applaud you, Mike. Because they're railguns. As strategic artillery, their main function is attack resources, not units. And it's true. It hardly does. It does wear down the morale very slightly on infantry units, but it's useful in places like railheads, rail junctions, forts. I can think of all kinds of different targets. And from 3 hexes away, well, it's good. Comment. There's Mike's comments. These changes have been made to slow down speed at which artillery becomes more lethal until later stages in the war. They also offer more flexibility as 3 different kinds of artillery vary in range, combat effects, maximum number of shells, ability to move, and cost. These changes have been also made to distinguish between artillery use, combat between major powers on the Western Front, where concentrated firepower is the most important factor. In artillery combat in Russia, the Balkans, the Middle East, and the Caucasus, where mobility is a more important factor between dispersed targets. Build limits for artillery has been partially rebalanced previously, then Taunton had an even greater advantage, and I did mention that. By giving heavy artillery a range of 3, attackers can use a second line for reinforcing corps and reduce the risk of artillery being killed by enemy counterattacks. However, this reduces the number of hexes they can hit. If placed in a second line, heavy artillery can hit a wider range of targets, but are also vulnerable to counter battery fire. Oh, I can't wait. The effectiveness of artillery weapons tech against other artillery was reduced because existing game settings made counter battery fire too powerful against artillery on open ground. Now, I've actually seen this before. As a matter of fact, I played a match against the legendary Fafner. I actually played 3, but one time we both had our artillery lined up and on the Western Front, and I went for it. And we traded Verdun like 6 times. And I reduced the whole French fort line, and there was nothing between my artillery units and the masses of artillery that Fafner had brought up. Oh my goodness. Anyway, the counter battery fire, it was nuts. So this, I can understand why this mechanic was done, Mike. That was very well done. It's going to be fun. But yeah, it was too powerful. It didn't happen very much in vanilla, but I have seen it happen, and it was too much. So that is it for this episode for artillery. Next episode we'll be dealing with infantry, German stormtroopers, tanks, anti-submarine warfare, and airships and maritime bomber changes, and under unit capabilities and upgrades. So there you go. Thanks for watching. See you on the virtual battlefields in the next episode of this mod description. See you later.